Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video we're gonna discuss about the continent. But before we start discussion about the continent specifically, is there something I need to tell you before we start our learning activity today? First, I need to tell you about what the objective learning in this video or in our learning activity today. The learning objective for our learning activity today is first to know you what the definition of continent. Second one, to know you what's name and how many continent divided in the world. And the last is to know you what country or the country in every the country in every continent in the world. So let's start. Our first discussion is about what the definition of continent. This is for learning media in our class today. So let's start from the continent. You can see as from this picture, this picture is the continent in the world. So what is continent? In general, a continent is a very large area of land on the surface of the earth. In narrow sense, a continent is an area of land that is connected to each other, where the coastline and other land boundaries form the edge of the continent. That's the definition of the continent. And you can see in this picture, this picture is to show you about the continent in our world. So what about the continent? How many continent in the world, and what's the name of the continent in this world? Continent is divided into 7. First, Asia. Second one, Africa. Third, North America. Next is South America, Europe, Antarctica, and the last is Australia. So let's start from the first continent is Asia. Asia continent is the biggest. Asia is the biggest continent in the world. The large continent in the world, with an area of approximately 43,018,820 square kilometer. This area research about 29% of the total area of the world continents. So like we know, the Asia is the biggest or the large continent in the world. And for the example, or for the example country in Asia is like Indonesia and Palestine. Actually, there are so many countries in Asia, but I just give you 2 examples. If you know more, you can search what the another country in Asia by yourself. For the Indonesia is, yes, you know, Indonesia is our country, and Indonesia is very famous with the food, you know, like rendang. Rendang is the delicious most delicious food in the world, and for the famous building or the iconic building from Indonesia is like the Borobudur Temple. And Borobudur Temple is one of 7 great building or monumental building in the world. And like Palestine, we know Palestine, Indonesia and Palestine have a good relationship, and Palestine is very famous with the mosque. The name is Masjidil Aqsa, and or the other people know it Dome of Rock. That's so. This is the example in country about the country in Asia. So let's move on to the second continent is Europe. Europe continent land is about more than 10 million square kilometer, about 9.8% of total area of the continent in the world. And we know Europe is very famous with their soccer, and of course we know Europe, every country in Europe is like a strong country. Like the example of country in Europe is like the United Kingdom and Germany. For the United Kingdom, you know, the English language is using for the international language, and for the famous building or the iconic building from United Kingdom, it's like the Big Ben. And also don't forget the United Kingdom has the big soccer competition in the world, one of the best or one of the big soccer competition in the world, and the name is English Premier League. And for the example, the famous football team from United Kingdom is like Manchester City, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, and many more. So we can say English is very famous. One of the famous thing from the United Kingdom is their soccer team, and also the national team, football national team from United Kingdom have already winner the world champions. And don't forget about Germany. Germany is also have the big or the best football soccer in the world, and Germany is the champion for the World Cup 2014 in Brazil. They are the champion, and they also have a big teams in soccer, in the soccer Europe soccer language, like the Bayern Munich and many more. That's the example of country in Europe continent. So Europe continent has a large land. The land of area in Europe continent is 10,118 square kilometer, or about 9.8% of the total area of the continent in the world. So let's move on to the next is about the Africa. The continent of Africa, with a land area of about 30,270 square kilometer, or about 20.4% of the total area of the continent in the world. So we can say the Africa continent is maybe the number 2 or the number 3, the biggest continent in the world after the Asia. Asia is the biggest. Maybe Africa, it can be the second one or the third, if I not make a mistake. So we know the continent Africa has a very hot climate. You know, it's like so many sands, and like the Sahara, Gurun Sahara. Africa is yeah, is a continent, and is a continent with a hot climate. The rain capacity in Africa is very low. Even though there are some there are some country have a tropic climate, but you can say maybe almost all of the country in Africa has a hot climate. So this is Africa, the continent in Africa have a big problem with to find clean water. It's not impossible to know Africa has a big problem with starving, but Africa is one of the best continent in the world because they have a lot of endemic animal like lion. The biggest elephant in the world is from Africa. The biggest national park in the world is from the Africa. So I think Africa is one of the best continent in the world. And the example of continent in Africa, the country from Africa is like Egypt and Zimbabwe. For the Egypt, I think it's not since you have heard about the Egypt before. I think Egypt is one of the country from Africa, and the famous thing we know from Egypt is the pyramid or the Sphinx. That's the famous or the iconic building from Africa. And also Africa has the large river in the world, and the name of river is the Nile river, like that. Zimbabwe, yeah, you can search by yourself because there are so many countries in Africa. I just give you two example, and you can find the another example by yourself. So let's move on to the next. Is North America. North America is the continent with land of about 416 square kilometers or about 19.5% of the total area of the continent in the world. That's the continent that's about the large of North America continent. For the example in the country in North America, it's like the superpower country like America or the Canada. That's the example about the country in North America. And America is very, very famous in, maybe we can say, in everything. Like America has a good movie procedure. They very, very famous with their Hollywood. They have best actress. They also have best public figure. They had a best singers, best band, and maybe we can say America is like the one of the biggest country for the best entertainment in the world. And America is not also famous with their entertainment. They also famous with the iconic building like the Liberty status. And America, America is one of the superpower in the world. They have strong army, strong economic, and every people in America have a big salary. Yes. And also they have biggest best educational system in the world. So let's move on to the South America. We know South America is like Latin America. The continent of South America has a land area of about 70 million 1840 square kilometer or 12% of the total area of the continent in the world. For the South America is very famous with their soccer. Brazil is very famous with their soccer. For your information, Brazil is the country have most winning or championship in football World Cup. They have already be a champion in World Cup for 5 times, and like I said before, it's like almost every country in South America is very famous with their football. Brazil is very famous with their football. Colombia is also famous with their football. For the best player football from Brazil is like Pele, Ricardo Kaká, Roberto Carlos, and also Argentina. Don't forget Argentina. Argentina is also one of the best country in the soccer area. They have a famous football player like Lionel Messi and many more. So let's move on to the Australia. If the Asia is the biggest continent in the world, so Australia is the smallest continent in the world. Continent of Australia, the land of Australia is about 9,850 square kilometer, or about 5.9% of the total area of the continent on the world. There is only one country in Australia, and the name of country is same with the name of continent. That is Australia. You know kangaroo? Yes, kangaroo is the endemic animal from the Australia. Australia is, yes, biggest country also. They have, for the native inhabit in is Aborigine tribe. Okay, I think it's clear about the Australia. And the last is Antarctica. The continent of Antarctica is estimated to have a land area of about 13,720 square kilometer, or 9.2% of the total area of the continent in the world. For your information, there is no official country in this Antarctica continent. There is no country in Antarctica continent. There is no government in Antarctica continent, because you know Antarctica have very extreme climate. The climate in Antarctica is very cool. It's not possible to make a resident in Antarctica continent. So the Antarctica continent is usually used for researchers. So the researcher came to the Antarctica. They stay in Antarctica for do our researchers. This continent is usually inhabited by researchers for their research purpose. So there is no country in Antarctica. Antarctica is, but it's not. Also, the Antarctica have a population, but the population is like the researcher. Just only the researcher. They stay in the Antarctica just for they purpose researchers. Then they stay in the researchers stay in Antarctica not for a long time. Okay, I think that's all about the continent. The material about the continent. We have already discussed about the definition of continent. We also discussed about how many and what's name the continent in the world, and we also discussed about the country in every what the example of country in every continent. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for giving your time to watching this video. Hope you can understand, and have a nice day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.